Hi guys, thanks for stopping by and hitching me a ride. It's Point Hard Book Club night and we're going to be talking about The Hitchhiker by R L Stine, which is one of my favourite point horrors. Hi Emma! It's one of my absolute favourite point horrors, so I can't wait to talk about this book. I hope people enjoyed it as well because I just love it. Right, let me see if Cameron, our guest, is here. Da, da. Invite. Just invited him on, so hopefully he'll be here in a minute. Fingers crossed. How are you guys doing? Hiya! Woohoo! Are we going to pick him up?
Oh, thanks for the lift.
Oh, you're welcome.
I promise I'm not a psycho.
Are you sure about that? You can do like a really good psycho look, Cameron.
Do a good psycho face.
That's so scary. Oh dear. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Awesome. Just wanted to make sure. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm so glad we're finally doing this. We've been talking
Me
about it
too.
for quite a while.
Me too. It's good to finally see you in person,
I
quote unquote.
know. Yeah, now you realise how crazy I am and like block me forever.
Never,
Oh
never.
dear. So just to introduce you then, so to everyone, if they don't know who you are, so this is Cameron Chaney, the
Okay.
brilliant Library Macabre. He's the host of the Library Macabre on BookTube or YouTube, and he's the author of the brilliant Autumn Crow. Ooh, cut it off there. Do, do,
Thank
do.
you.
So, Autumn Crow is a collection of 7 short, spooky stories set in the mysterious town of Autumn Crow. It's great. They're great stories, great storytelling, and they give you all the nostalgic feels as well. So, if you like point horror or goosebumps, then I highly recommend Cameron's book. And you've got Autumn
Thank
Crow High coming out very soon, which I'm super excited about.
That's right. I'm still
Can't wait.
still working on it, but it's coming. I'm hoping to release it like in July. July. So
Ooh.
in time for spooky season. Plenty of time for spooky season.
Yes, we love spooky season. So I know you love Fear Street, and
Mhm.
your collection of old books is amazing, Cameron. I
Oh,
love it.
thank you.
But
Thank you.
what got you into point horror, or what was your first point horror you read? Can you remember?
The first point horror, I think, was Hit and Run by R.L. Stein.
Oh,
So very
interesting.
a little similar in terms of teens driving who probably shouldn't be.
Totally.
Which, of course, Hit and Run was pretty much very, very similar to Killing Mr. Griffin, or I'm sorry, I Know What You Did Last Summer by Lois Duncan, which was pretty much the same exact setup. But I
Yeah.
still love it. It's still great. And I need to reread that one very soon. I
Yeah, I
also
need to reread that.
loved The Babysitter. That was my second, I think, which was one of my faves. I
Yeah.
read all the R.L. Stein ones, and then I branched off to like some of the others.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
you're obviously a huge R L Stein fan.
Kind of
Um,
big.
yeah. So what's your
Sort of.
favourite like Fear Street R L Stein?
Well, I started off with Goosebumps when I was real young. Like I was 2 years old, skipped over Dr. Seuss. I wanted my mom to read me Goosebumps because that's what was big at the time. So it was all about Goosebumps. And then as I got a little bit older, I got into Ghosts of Fear Street. And then I realized, oh, this is a spin-off of a series for teens. And then I wanted to get into that. So I started collecting the books around like 9, 10 years old and started reading those and then got hooked on Fear Street too.
Oh wow, I love that. It's so amazing what an impression like books like that and any book really makes on you when you're younger and how long it lasts like until you're
Totally.
adults. And yeah, it's just
Never
lovely.
goes
It's
away.
lovely.
Never goes away.
Never goes away. Someone's just put so many terrible pranksters in Hit and Run. Oh, so many in Hit and
Yeah.
Run.
Every every
Definitely, and
every
lots of
chapter ending. every
Oh, a bit
chapter.
like this one. There was.
Yeah, it's constant.
Yeah, and a lot of people saying they need to get a copy of Autumn Crow, but I highly recommend it. It's
Thanks,
really
guys.
really good.
Hope you guys like it. Hope you
um,
like
oh yeah, they'll love it. They'll love it. I loved it. Um, so yeah, so this month we read The Hitchhiker. Um, this is, as I was saying at the beginning, this is one of my favourite point horrors. Yay! I
it.
always
So
like your copy a little bit better because I
I
like the
like yours
writing on
more.
it. Um, isn't that weird how we both like each other's? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, this is one of my favourite point horrors, and it's just crazy. So with a tagline of "Don't stop now," but they did stop quite a lot. Really, they
Yeah, they
stopped
did.
a lot. I'll just do a little summary of the book. Well, I'll try to. I always try to. I don't know whether it ever goes very well, but we'll see. So, two girls, Christina and Terry, have been living dangerously and visiting Florida. So you'd think it was all Mickey Mouse ears and having fun at Disneyland every day, but no, it's really not. It's destroyed everyone's vision of Florida reading this book. So so other than putting people off visiting Florida for life, the two girls decide their next destination is Tampa, as they just cannot deal with everyone in Florida driving 15 miles per hour. Don't know how true that is.
I have no idea. I've been to Florida many times, but it's always been like the touristy destinations like Sarasota and Orlando and Disney. So yeah, I have no idea what they're talking about.
So this is when they decide to pick up a hitchhiker called James, who basically shows them how to work the AC in their car because they can't turn the AC on. So yeah, so basically, James, it's put me off just thinking about James, you see. But James is he's got quite a temper. He beats up a few people along the journey, even leaving is it an uncle unconscious on his front lawn. Um, anyway, the three characters travel along and soon realise they're being followed, but by who? And with reports of an elderly man being killed by a hitchhiker, suspicions even soon fall on bad-tempered James. But yeah, so basically, they all suspect James, and then we get the best point horror ending. I think that I've never topped this ending because it just shocked me the first time I ever read it. So Steiny upgrades from his classic egg cracking death to a new splash, chomp, and go style death.
Yes.
So yeah, one word: piranhas.
Piranhas, baby.
And yeah, and of course, you know, cliffhanger endings on every chapter, which was just great. I loved it.
Me too.
So the characters in this book were quite they were all quite interesting. Who should we start with, do you think? Who should we start with?
Um,
Should,
I
should,
guess we'll start Terry.
should we start? Yes, okay. Should we start with Terry? I was like, oh, who should we start with? I'm not sure because I kind of like hated them and loved them all at the same time.
Yes.
So what did you think of Terry? What did you think?
Terry is she's kind of like the of the two girls, kind of like the good friend, the angel on the shoulder, while the other Christina is more like the devil on the shoulder. Um, I love how Terry kind of just like pops back up at the end, like I'm okay, I fought for my life. Not to skip ahead, but I loved that. That was like my favorite. Because I don't know
Oh, it was so
when
great.
yeah, when I thought she was dead, I was kind of like, oh, kind of liked her. But she's I don't know, she's kind of like I related to her because that would kind of be me if I had a friend like Christina. I would be kind of over it and just like, let's just go home. Let's just go home. It's time to go. It's time to go home now, Christina. So
The
yeah,
sensible one.
Yeah, the
basically.
sensible one, but also a little bit irritable because I can be if I get annoyed enough with somebody, I can be kind of just like, we need to just leave. Just go home to our bed and read a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked her a lot, even though she is kind of like always on everyone's case, on Christina's case, and the hitchhiker, which I can't remember his name. What was his name again? Was it James?
The James, yeah, the one that they pick up.
Yeah. So she's always on his case too, but I liked her. As for Christina, she's a little more irresponsible, but you still can't help but like her because it's such a classic Stein character.
She was great. I loved her. But with Terry, what I kind of liked about Terry was she, other than that ending, because she basically, I know we're jumping way ahead, but yeah, basically she outswam piranhas. Like, like
I feel like she
how
punched a
did she
piranha in
do
the face or
it?
something.
Like, have that piranha. But that whole scene, like at the end,
Hmm.
where she's like, she's like, James is like, oh, Terry's gonna save me. Like, he doesn't need saving, it just needs pushing in the piranha pond. But
Right.
but yeah, that whole scene when she's got that rock in her hand at the end, and she's like
Hmm.
all bloody and chewed up. So I think I wrote down like her arms and legs were lined with jagged deep cuts, and her denim
Hmm.
cut-offs and midriff top were torn and blood stained, and
Yeah.
one side of her face was caked with brown dried blood. And yeah, so basically she kicked piranha butt, really.
She did. She kicked him in the tail.
Honestly, I think that's the story that we didn't get. We just need like a spin-off of Terry getting out of the piranha pool,
Yeah.
definitely.
Just a whole book about her fighting piranhas.
um, a whole book of it. I would read that.
Whole book.
um, but uh, OG nostalgia, but 90s media had me believing I was going to encounter a lot more piranhas in my everyday life.
That's how forests were
Yeah, so
back in the 90s. They would like teaching you about like
oh,
stop, drop, and roll. I was always in fear that at one point in my life I'm gonna catch on fire and it's gonna be a big deal. It's gonna probably happen regularly. Stop, drop, and roll. Stop, drop, and roll.
stop, drop, and roll. Oh dear, it's because we read too much like Fear Street and Point Horror and Goosebumps and everything. Yeah, it scarred us for life. Um, I meant to say as well, if people put comments up, I'll try and read them out as we go along. And I did forget to say there will be spoilers, but we've already just spoilt it now. But sorry. Um, but yeah, so Terry, what else I liked about Terry was now, correct me if I'm wrong, but in my opinion, Stein normally has an issue with bigger girls in
Yeah,
books.
yeah.
And what I loved about Terry was she was a big girl. Well, that's how she was described, like as
Mm-hmm.
full bodied.
Mm-hmm.
And she was actually the hero of the story. And I was
Right.
like, yes, at last.
Yes.
Like, it
I
was,
thought that was really cool. I was a little bit worried at the beginning when he started describing her. I'm like, oh, here we go. But I don't know. I feel like he handled it a little better. Maybe it could have been better, but
mm,
I think making her the hero of the story and everything was cool. And like I said, she was the most relatable for me. So
yeah, definitely. What else did I write down about Terry? Because, as I say, I just loved her. I wrote down that she was a bit of a worrier, and she was far more cautious than Christina. But that was completely understandable, and I kind of liked how she had her Christina's back. Like she was always saying, "She's my best friend," and this, that, and the other, even though she knew what Christina had done. She knew that Christina had killed the old man to basically steal a car, essentially. And obviously she helped Christina dump the body. But I kind of like that, but she still defended her. Like,
Hmm.
is that friendship? Would you do that?
Right. It does remind you of kind of being in high school, and even though your friends probably aren't the best for you, aren't the best influence, you still are behind them all the time until you finally have that moment when you realize you have to push them off of a cliff into a piranha pool. Then things change.
Those times always come,
It comes,
There's
you
many
get the
people I've pushed
realization.
off that. Oh dear, yeah, yeah. But if you haven't got a piranha pool in the back garden, then
It's not as
what are you
convenient.
even doing? But I'll just put this book is one of the best point horrors ever. Yeah, I really like this one. Dustin's put, I was surprised he didn't really focus much on Terry's weight this time round. That's what I mean. I kind of liked it. And I was like pleasantly surprised for Stein because, as I say, there's normally some comment or other in one of his books. But, these books are from the 90s. So, you have to be a bit more generous, I guess.
Yeah.
And then Justin's put, what parents allow their 17-year-old daughters to drive alone to Fort, do you say Fort Lauderdale? I wasn't sure how you
Lauderdale.
pronounce that. Lauderdale, okay.
Mhm.
All the way from Cleveland. So I take it that's quite a big trip. Is
Cleveland's
that
in
a big
Ohio,
trip?
and I'm in Ohio, so Cleveland's like, I don't know, two
Ah.
hour, 2.5, 3 hour drive from me. So to go from there all the way to Florida is like, yeah, it's a pretty big drive.
Oh,
Couple days,
so the parents just basically didn't care.
right? They should have cared a lot
They
more.
should have, yeah.
They were not
They
responsible
really
enough for
should
this
have.
trip.
I mean, it's one way to get rid of the parents. It's just, I think they only get a
Yeah,
mention right at the end when it's to do with like money or
right.
something. Um, and that whole scene as well, where Terry goes out for a walk in the woods with James, and she has that moment where, because obviously we find out Christina's set that up and told her to go, but we kind of had that moment where she kisses James. Now, do you think that was planned, or do you think she was just like in the moment because it was so
I
unusual?
I think she was in the moment. I kind of felt that even though Christina had asked her to, take James out for a walk, I think she kind of likes James, and she kind of hates that Christina gets everything. So I think she was like, even though she doesn't like James, she also is kind of attracted to him at the same time. So she got
Yeah,
caught up in the moment, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, I reckon
Hmm.
definitely. Karen's put just ruin the piranha. Just to ruin the piranha scene though. They rarely attack humans unless already bleeding or dead, and very unusual to lose more than the odd fingertip. They eat insect seeds and tons of stuff. How do you know, Karen? Have you...
She's
Karen,
had
is this something
personal
you haven't
experience with
told me? From experience. Have you got one in the back garden in Edinburgh? um, Bethany books Bethany reads, but it's dead or don't care. Otherwise, the kids would be home by bedtime and do nothing but study.
it.
Oh dear. Um, so, and the just before we move on from Terry, I have to say that I did feel for her when she had to do that like stunt driving, like Fast and Furious, because she thought they were being followed. So she was doing like donuts and like wheelie spins. And then I'm sure, don't they get taken out by a tractor? So she does all of this driving, trying to get away, and then there's a tractor, and then she ends up going off the road into a
Right.
tree.
Which is
And
so that's was such an Ohio thing. For me, it's like driving along and then all of a sudden, oh, there's a tractor going 2 miles an hour. So I related.
oh, no, we get that over here because I live in
Do you?
like a village, and like if you just go a little bit further, like you always get stuck behind like a potato tractor or something when
Yeah.
you're trying to get somewhere quick. But it just made me laugh. so much. I just thought, oh God, I did really love Terry. I thought she was just refreshing, and I really,
I
really
liked her too.
liked her.
I really liked her too.
Yeah. So we'll move on to Christina then, because I think I've got so much to say or ask about Christina, because what a character. So what did you think of Christina? Did you like her?
I liked her in the typical kind of unlikable Stein character way, though I wouldn't say she was unlikable on a Reva Dalby from Fear Street kind of way. I thought she still had a lot of likable qualities to her. But at this point, she has killed an old man. She has stolen a car. She does not want to go down for this.
Just
So she is on her way out. She's gonna make it out of this, and she doesn't. She doesn't.
But do you think that she doesn't because of her own? It's her own fault that she doesn't, because she kind of like stops a lot. If she just like put pedal to the metal, I was going to say. I don't know what I was going to say. A foot to the pedal. Then she would have like got further away, but she kept stopping to pick up James or stopping for chili dogs.
She was kind of treating it like a game, like it was kind of fun. Like she was kind of enjoying being on the run, and then of course James comes into the picture, and oh, he's so cute and dreamy.
Oh dear, I've got so much to say about James. So much to say. I'm not sure whether I keep losing you a little bit, Cameron. So I'm sorry if I've got a bit of a delay. Just every now and again, I'll just lose you a little bit.
Okay, yeah, there's a little bit of a lag, but so far I've not lost you. So hopefully, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Narissa's put, no one is as bad as Reva. I've heard a lot about Reva from Silent Night, but I've never actually read Silent Night because I don't have a copy of it.
It's so good.
Yeah, so I really must read that, because I always hear so much, and I do like a really like unlikable character. So
she is so much fun. She's so much fun as a character. She is the worst, but so much fun.
I really must get on that.
Something kind of mean about someone in your head, and you're like, oh, I shouldn't think that. She's the one who will just say it.
I love characters like that, though. I mean, I wouldn't like to meet her in real life, but because I'd be like, oh, I'm scared. But yeah, but I do like characters like that. They just make me like laugh so much. So yeah, OG Nostalgia just put Christina was a straight up psychopath. I mean, she really was. I did like her just because she was so just crazy. But one thing I loved about Christina was the fact that she could seduce people with her hair, with her like ringlet hair, corkscrew curls, I think it was.
Something like that, yeah.
She thinks to just brush her hair on like James's shoulder or something. He's just going to seduce him, but it did work.
It did work, yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to try. I'll try that on my husband later. I'll just like flick my hair at him and see what happens.
Well, it was cracking me up because, of course, we have a character named Christina, and she makes a lot about her hair. And then you and I are also buddy reading the Saving Christina trilogy, which is point horror.
Yeah.
And the name is Christina, and she also has, really different
tri-colored hair. Yeah.
That she's always talking about. So I kept kind of getting it mixed up. I'm like, wait, what book am I reading again?
Oh dear, can you imagine putting this Christina in the fog and the snow?
Oh,
whoa.
I don't think she would be bad.
That would that would be just, oh yeah. I just can't even imagine. Oh dear. Yeah, so what have I written about Christina? So I did kind of guess. I always remember reading this book, and I always kind of guessed that she was the twist, but not until like quite near the end, and I was putting things together. I think it was about the time when Terry disappeared and the
Mm-hmm.
car disappeared and things. So I always remember kind of guessing it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but other than that, I couldn't see what direction the book was going to go in. It's just a vivid memory that I have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was just the fact that they killed this elderly man. And I think she says at the end something like, "I didn't mean to kill him. You have to believe me. I didn't mean to hit the old guy that hard. My hand just slipped. That's all.
Oh boy,
His
oh boy.
head, it cracked. I mean, I didn't want to. I mean, do we believe her?"
Oh boy, that
No.
that would not go over very well in court. She's lucky she got eaten by piranhas, and that it could just be done.
Oh dear. It was just the way she was like, well, I didn't mean to, but essentially it was just to pinch his car, to nick his car, basically.
Mhm.
Just crazy, crazy, crazy.
It wouldn't happen
Um,
nowadays because they could just call an Uber.
that's so true.
These
And
were
like,
dangerous times right here. Dangerous times.
oh gosh, it was. You can't beat a good old 90s hitchhiking. So Christina for me is the reason why Point Horrors got quite a reputation for did the best friend do it? There's always like a running joke, is it going to be the best friend?
Mhm.
In this one, the best friend did do the deed.
Mhm.
So I tried to do a little summary of kind of like what she did. So of killing the person who was kind enough to pick her up, her and her friend up, and then kill him just for the car so she could get back home to her not so worried about her parents. And then, whilst on the way, pick up another hitchhiker who then she seduced to then pin the murder on him to save her own skin, to then try and push him in the piranha lake, to only then end up in the piranha lake herself.
Sounds about
So
right.
she was, I loved her so much. So I
The
kind of didn't want
karma
to,
of the whole situation.
I kind of didn't want to like her, but a niggle in the back of my mind was that I just loved her, especially for luring like James in and then just throwing him under the bus at the end. I mean, that's savage. What she
Yes.
did.
Oh yeah, that ending where she's the one who finally is like, "Oh no, you can't get away either. You're going down.
Oh.
Jump off the cliff right now, or I'm going to shoot you." I would be like, "Just shoot me." I don't want to get my piranhas.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you that. Would you rather be ate by piranhas or shot?
Just
This has took a
shot.
whole new level.
Just get it done. I don't want to. I don't want to be eaten alive ever.
I know, but it kind of be nice to see the piranhas. Wouldn't
I
see
don't
them for
know.
very long, but
No, or unless it's like they say in the comment section here that they're just gonna like come back for seconds and thirds and fourths until I'm gone.
yeah.
A
Oh
fingertip
God.
here, a toe there.
Yeah, just when they're feeling like a midnight snack, you're like, oh, I
Yeah.
feel a bit peckish. I'm just going to nibble that toe. Nom, nom, nom,
No thanks. I'll pass.
nom. Imagine like the other piranha. Oh, I'm a bit full, mate. Oh, I can't manage another little toe today.
Punch the piranha, somebody says when they come.
Go.
That's what you do for sharks. If you're being bit by a shark, you punch them in the nose, and it's supposed to like make them let go.
But in that moment, if you was being eaten by a shark, I think, would you remember to punch them?
I don't know. I just always think back to the Laura Croft movie, The Tomb Raider, where she just punches the shark in the nose, and it's like, all right, you can ride on my back.
Yeah. Oh, we can all learn a lot from that. Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Scott's put, didn't Christine pick up James just to take Terry's mind off killing the old man? Oh, yeah, possible.
Yeah, she's very manipulative. Jeez.
But then that whole back of the car scene that Christina and James had, oh gosh,
Very
like
uncomfortable.
I would have just pulled the car over and I've been like, get out, just go, just.
Go find a room out in the woods somewhere.
Oh yeah, so yeah, I didn't think of it quite like that actually. So maybe that was the case.
Yeah.
But again, like the friendship between Christina and Terry, obviously Christina was like wore the trousers, in my opinion, in their friendship.
Mm.
Um, like she was always saying to Terry, wasn't she, like life isn't a soap opera and stuff like this, like trying to like talk some sense into her when she's the one doing all the crazy
And it's
business.
all because of Christina that the book becomes a soap opera.
Yeah, it's all her fault. um, and then, however, when Terry goes missing, obviously, once we get to the end of the book, there's a different spin on it to why it kind of happened. But when Terry goes missing, Christina is like, "Oh, we need to go find her," and then something happens. I can't remember. Something spooks her, and then she's like, "Forget Terry, let's go." It's like,
Right.
that's friendship.
Yeah. I don't think the friendship was very, very mutual.
No, do you think it was quite one-sided?
I think so. I think Terry was just holding on because Christina's probably been her friend for a while.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason.
Oh, Dustin's put, I think Christina was just horny.
Definitely.
Oh, and Karen, I'm really scared that Karen knows so much about piranhas. Also, fun fact, there were probs only a couple of piranhas left. As if they were actually starving, they would eat each other. If you have 6 today in a month, you'd only have 2 left. Oh, I feel a bit sad for the piranhas.
I have a lot in common with Christina. They're very savage.
Oh dear. No wonder Terry was able to get away then. Oh, yeah, that's true. That's how
Mhm.
Terry got away. Oh,
I
okay.
remember when Terry showed up, I was kind of like, oh, Court. I feel like she would be eaten alive by now, but okay. But I guess it makes more sense. Maybe R L Stein actually did some research.
Yeah. I definitely think this one, I feel like sometimes with Stein's books, obviously he was churning them out quite quick. So
Mhm.
I guess sometimes he maybe just wrote, as it made it up as he went along kind of thing. But I do think this one was quite well plotted
Yeah, it was.
and thought out. So, yeah, I reckon he did. Can you imagine
Yeah,
doing that research on piranhas? Cool.
I totally agree. This one was very, very tight, the way it was
Yeah,
plotted, and you could tell he put a lot of thought into this, which there are quite a few Fear Street books where I feel he did the same, like Silent Night. I feel like he kind of brings everything around full circle and ties everything together. So I
yeah,
feel like this was one of those cases. And I know you mentioned that you felt like you've always wondered if maybe this was a ghost written book, which it's always kind of hard to tell. But this
yeah.
one, it was different in a lot of ways from his other books where I'm like, hmm. But there's one thing that he always puts in all of his books. And I wanted to ask you about this.
Okay.
There's always a female character that when they get scared or upset about something, they'll start like pulling their hair.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is that something people do? Like, have you ever pulled your hair out when you've been scared?
I can't say I have. I've pulled
I
my
don't,
hair out at my teenage son sometimes, but
there you go.
no,
But
but not.
I don't feel like that's something that people do, but he always puts that in his books. And Christina pulled her hair many, many times in this book, so maybe he did write
Yeah, she did. And now I think about it, I think the only one that springs to mind is because the character in it is just horrible, but in a good way. So Joanna from The Boyfriend, I've got a feeling she did that. Now you say that. Oh, I'm going to look out for that.
it. Hmm. Yeah, it's
Mm.
in a lot of his books. It shows up at least once where a character is like upset. They just start tugging at their hair. I'm like, stop! You're hurting yourself.
Oh, Emma's put she twists her hair. I do that quite a lot. I generally tend to twist my hair quite a lot. Like
It's
it's normally when
it's
I'm thinking.
it's different from just like
Yeah.
tugging your hair out of your head.
Yeah, and Books Bethany reads put tug, but I would not pull it actually out.
No,
But yeah. Oh, can you imagine? Oh, how painful.
I don't know about Stein. He doesn't have much hair, so maybe he does.
Yeah, that's true. That's what happened. That's why he puts it in every book because he's like, that's what happened.
Yeah, that's what happened.
So he has to honour the memory of his lost hair.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, dear. Um, I saw someone put Stein plot a book. Nah. But honestly, I've always felt that this didn't feel like a Stein book. Like that's why I always wondered if it was ghost written.
Yeah.
And I would absolutely love to know if it was, because whoever wrote this, I'd love to read their other books if it wasn't Stein, of course. But it
Right.
just
Yeah.
felt a different style, not a
Hmm.
different style, but a different tone to the normal Steins. But
I agree, and I think it's perfectly plausible that maybe he
mm,
didn't, because I've heard, he's always said that he wrote all of the original Goosebumps books and most of the original Fear Street books, and it's usually credited when somebody else wrote it, like if you look on the copyright page. But
mm,
I've heard about a lot of like lawsuits involving Goosebumps, and the reason why Goosebumps ended in the first place was because he was supposed to write all of the books and started hiring other people to do that for him because he had so much to do, which I get
yeah,
because he was releasing like 5 books a month, which is insane.
yeah,
Nobody can do that. That's too
it's
much work.
crazy.
But I heard that he did get into some trouble over it, and I don't know what books he wrote and which ones he didn't, but it sounds like it was happening
Mm.
pretty often. So there's a
Yeah.
chance he didn't
So
write
there's a
this.
chance that it could be. I mean,
Yeah,
we do want it to be Stein, don't get us
I
wrong. We do
really,
want
really
it to
do.
be. But
I really do.
there's just a niggle that it just doesn't feel like a Stein. But
Right.
and every time I read it, I think the same. Like I just can't get past that thought.
Hmm.
But I do really want it to be Stein because
Me
it's
too.
so good.
Me too.
Dustin's but I don't understand why he went with piranhas and not gators. I think that he just got to the end and was just like, how can I kill him off? What could I get away with? Piranhas.
Which is the craziest option. I read Piranhas, and I told you, you were asking me what I predicted for the ending, and I guessed it pretty much right, except it could not have predicted the piranha thing in a million years.
No, definitely not. Just like who would do that? And I kind of like hope that that's why he did it, for like the shock factor. Because
And it's a lot more gruesome too
it's
than a
so
lot of his books.
gruesome.
Hmm.
But I do find like some of the Steins, like Beach House, that's got a couple of gory, not really gory,
Hmm.
maybe a couple of gory bits, but there is a little bit of gore in there.
Hmm.
So like every now and again, it just felt like Stein just went for it rather than like maybe it was books that he had more time on. Maybe
Hmm.
I'm hoping.
It could have been he
Um,
had more time to write this, and he just
yeah, maybe
put
it
a
was
little
just.
more effort into it. It is an earlier book, so
And I definitely feel that about, I don't know if you've read it, but Beach House. I
yes.
definitely think there was a lot of thought put into that one. Well, there
I,
had to be because of all
yeah,
the twists.
I liked Beach House. The only thing is that I don't want to spoil it for
Yeah.
people who haven't. For the twist, I don't usually like stories that involve that. I'm always kind of like, oh, here we go. But I
Yeah.
loved how he ended up kind of tying it around. And it's so insane. It's just
It
so
is.
crazy that you can't help but love it. So
I do love that one as well, definitely. So Speedway Chick put, I thought it was going to be Gators there too. Books Bethany reads, but no, a friend went and purposely makes a freshwater lake just for the piranhas.
he loves his
Who does
prawns.
that? Is that what Karen did in the comments? Have you made a freshwater lake? Yeah, Emma's put, Emma's put, she thought it did feel like his style. Ah, that's interesting. It might just be me. It's got no pranks in it, so it can't be Stein, Larissa's put. So, like, you know, some people think it is, some people think it isn't. It's interesting. I do find that I'm fascinated with ghost written books. Like, I'm just fascinated by it.
Well, there's a book in the Fear Street series where it's known that he didn't write it. We all know who the actual author was, and that's the Thrill Club, and that's one of my favorite books in the series. I thought it was really different and interesting. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's some good things have come from it. I'm also a big fan of Nancy Drew, and Carolyn Keene, the author, didn't exist, and there are thousands of those. So I read ghostwritten books all the time. So I do have kind of a fondness for them. They're mysterious.
Yeah, that's what I find. I like the mystery of like trying to, you don't know. I love that. Karen's put, so probs because gators barely kill humans either. About one person every 5 years. Karen, are you scaring me? Oh, I'm so scared. Oh dear. If Karen asked me to come and visit her at some point, then I'm not sure I'm going to come. she might take me up a hill and bump me off. Emma's put not getting on Karen's bad side. So did you? So overall, we were saying we liked Christina, just for being so deliciously awful. And I have to give her credit. You know, you're in a hostage situation, and you know, she threw everything at that hostage situation. She even tried to seduce Art, the bloke who's like tied them up. Like, I can do something really nice for you if you let us go.
I thought that was interesting too, because Stein very, very rarely hints at sex, and I was like, he didn't like say it, but he went there with it a little bit. I was like, that's interesting.
I also think as well, there's a reference, I think when they're at the motel, and I think James can hear Christina and Terry arguing, and there's like a bit of an innuendo kind of comment, well, in my opinion, where it says they were going at it all night or something like that. And I was like, oh, is Stein going to go there with, like, you know, the two women? And
I wish that would have been great.
That would have been so refreshing for a point horror.
Great.
I would have loved that.
I would love to see like two female lovers going hitchhiking across the Everglades, picking up other hitchhikers and knocking them off. That would be so much fun.
Oh yeah, I would have loved that. I wish you'd done that.
That would have been a great twist.
Yeah, that would have been so good.
We really got James, didn't we?
But I kind of like
next one.
next. But I kind of like the kind of innuendo there, and I was like, oh, okay, this is, again, for me, I thought it was quite unusual for a Stein. So let's move on to James. So James Dark, you know, dark because he's dark and mysterious and a bad dude, apparently, which I'm sure Stein uses that bad dude like that in a couple of his books, especially in Point Horror, because I'm sure that, I want to say that was in Beach House, but I might be wrong. But I've definitely read that the way he says that before. But with the description of James, which was olive green eyes, handsome face, powerfully built with a broad football player neck, short blonde buzzed hair. I couldn't get out of my head that he was Vanilla Ice from the 90s.
Yeah. I didn't think about that, but now I see it.
I couldn't unsee it. I was like, as soon as I read that description, I was just going, ice, ice, baby. Like
Oh,
the whole way
I wish you would
through.
have told me that, because then I could have pictured that in my head the whole time.
Oh dear, I think it might just be a me thing, but that honestly, I was, I couldn't unsee it at all.
I always have a
But
hard time picturing characters in my head unless I have like a celebrity to reference. So that, yeah, that
yeah,
would have. But now that you mention it, yeah, it sounds just like him.
yeah, it's like that definitely. I think Stein was listening to Ice Ice Baby on repeat, and he just put him into a book and was like, "Yeah, there you go,
Yep.
perfect character."
Hmm.
So, what did you think of James?
I thought he was fun, and I kind of suspected from the beginning, from like the prologue. I'm like, I don't I don't think he's the killer or the hitchhiker they're talking about on the radio. I kind of felt like you were supposed to think that, but that's
Yeah.
usually I've read so many Stein books, and I'm like, what you're supposed to think is usually not what it really is. It's to throw you off. So I
Mm.
liked him. I think he's kind of a tough guy. He's got a lot of toxic qualities to him, but I know people
So
like
many.
that in my life, so I'm like, yep, that reminds me of someone I know.
Oh, well, I just found him so cringy. I don't know what everyone else thought, but he was just horrible. I just
He's
didn't
horrible.
like him. He was like, but not in a, I don't know what it is, not in a horrible way that I could get past it. I just didn't like him at all. And like, my opinion never changes every time I read this book. I'm just like, ugh, like, just no. And like,
Like I
when he's like,
said, a lot of toxic qualities.
oh, just so bad and
Mhm.
a bad dude. But he seemed to have like this cocky attitude towards women because he thought he
Yeah,
was. I think he thought he was obviously God's gift to women.
yeah,
Where he's like, oh, I think when he first sees both of the girls, and he's like, oh, not
yeah,
bad. I could go for either one of them, but maybe both.
yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
We don't need to know that, James.
Oh,
Just keep it
well,
to yourself.
that's another thing. Like R.L. Stine references sex a lot in this. That I think back on it, I'm like, hmm, maybe it wasn't him. I'm just saying.
Mm, yeah, yeah. Emma's put she liked James. Oh, that's interesting.
He's one of those that I like to hate, but
Yeah.
not in the same way as like Reva Dalby. He is more just kind of just a caricature, someone that you're supposed to just hate and be suspicious of. So I think a lot of it was definitely on purpose,
Yeah.
because you see how bad he is. And it's like, oh yeah, he could definitely be this hitchhiker, even
Mm.
though I realized this time was just trying to like throw me off.
No, but that's it. Like he obviously wasn't written to be liked, and I get it. And like you say, he's there to be the person that you think they're talking about on the radio with the
Right.
old man who's been left on the side of the road.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know. I just couldn't warm to him at all. Like I
If he
really
had been,
wanted.
sorry, if he had
No,
been
go on.
pushed off of the cliff and eaten by piranhas, I would have been okay with it. So back
That's
then, anyway.
literally what I was gonna say. Like I wouldn't have minded if we got pushed off the cliff. Great minds. But yeah, he oh, a scene that did make me laugh with James though was was when he pretended to drive the car away. I think so. The girls are having like an argument on the side of the road,
Mhm.
and he was like, "Oh, I know what I can do to like wind them up and make them panic. I'll just
Yeah.
pretend to drive the car away."
I thought that
So,
was funny. I would do the same thing to like my friends, just to freak them out.
but you can just imagine him going like waving, like because he's going,
Oh.
"See ya." And I thought, oh, okay, we're getting a bit of a sense of humour out of him
Yeah.
now.
Mhm.
Um, and I have to admit, like at the end as well, when he says, "I'm going to die for no reason," and I thought, no, there is a reason, James,
There
and
is
it
a
is
reason.
because you're a bit of an idiot.
an arrogant jerk. Yes.
Yes, yeah. So I do think he deserved to learn a little bit more of a lesson than hanging around with the wrong women. You know, shouldn't do that apparently. And he should have just learned a bit more of a lesson. But you do get a bit of a character arc with him, I guess. He kind of changes a bit towards the end. You see like a bit of his vulnerable side, I guess, and that. But then you get that last chapter and he just doesn't redeem himself in the hospital.
No. I think it's pretty clear, like, he used to be much more of a bad guy before, because the cousin references that he stole something before, and he was like, I'm not like that anymore. Like, he's at least like making an effort, but those qualities are still very much hanging on. I imagine he's probably only like, how old is he, like 18, 19?
Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah. He's got a long way to go.
Bless him. Perhaps he was just misunderstood.
I don't know. Hopefully he gets better in his life now that he's been given a second chance and spared from the piranhas.
Oh dear. I wonder if he ever went back to the piranha lake. That'd be interesting. Maybe he took over the cabin or something. You never know. Emma's put, I always like the shitheads. Christina and James are fab. Books Bethany reads. He was such an arrogant beep that he was fun to read. Yeah, he was fun to read. Yeah, I'm probably not giving him enough credit, really, but he was
You're definitely right, though. He is a horrible character.
Oh dear. I mean, they're all pretty horrible in this book, really, weren't they? Anna's put, I feel he could have redeemed his character by sacrificing himself at the end. Yeah. Why didn't he just like dive into that piranha pit and go, I'll do it? And
which I feel like he would do just to be seen as a hero.
Yeah.
Look how courageous I am.
But in a way that I can survive those piranhas, you just watch me do it.
Right. Look, I put myself on the line for you.
It's just, as I said before earlier, it's when Terry turns up and his inner thoughts were like, oh, we're saved. Like, can you not help a little bit? Just got to rely on poor old torn up Terry. Justin's put, he was a contradiction. The fake name at the beginning, George, and the inner monologue, they think we're staying at my cousin's because they did stay at his cousin's. Yeah, it's he was written in a way that you were meant to suspect him.
Right.
Definitely. My dad used to do that as a joke in the 90s, drive the car a few feet when you reach the door.
Yep.
It's going to be my new trick.
It's fun.
Point horror's been educational, because now that's what I'm going to do, like, all the time to people.
Or when it's really cold outside and someone's about to get in the car and you lock the door and you're like, ha ha, look at you, you're freezing. And you're like, just open the door.
Just let me in. Oh, I'm so going to do that. That's hilarious.
It's fun.
Yeah. So Books Bethany reads put, she loved Paul and Paula. Thing like, oh no, dodgy. And then Paula is like, oh hey. So I liked Paul and Paula a lot as well. And they kind of reminded me, now you might not know what this is, I'm not sure, but there's an old English sitcom over here called Keeping Up Appearances.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's like from the 90s or something, but they kind of reminded me, there's these characters, I'll have to send you a picture later, called Onslow and Daisy. And when I send you a picture, you'll be like, oh. But if anyone in the comments knows who I'm on about, did you picture them as Paul and Paula? Because that's who I pictured, and I couldn't unsee that either.
You're good at picturing the character.
Oh dear. But it's always the obscure, like people that no one else would ever think of. Emma's put she loves that show. So do you think they were like Paul and Paula? Was it Paul and Paula? So confusing it was, wasn't it? But Paul though, he was showing off his like wad of cash in his wallet, and then he gets punched, punched on the lawn. Bless them. So the other person that I wanted to ask you about was obviously Art Eckridge. The way I just imagined him saying as well, exactly like this. I hope you like my swamp camp, like with like evil hands.
He was interesting. I was like, oh, a new character, and I don't know. I was almost wondering, like, at the beginning of the book where Christina runs a semi off of the road. It's really brief, and they never come back to it. I thought he might be the semi driver, and that he was like, "You crashed my truck."
Yeah, because that's when they just run the truck off the road, don't they? And I think Christina goes, "He's a truck driver; he'll be fine."
I thought it would be him, and he would just be like a little bit salty. And it turns out, he wasn't salty. It was freshwater. That was it. That was really dumb. I'm sorry.
No, I really like that. Oh, I love that. But what's Dustin? Oh, Dustin's put, Shelley, when you read Point Horror, do the characters have a British or American accent? I don't think I read with an accent in mind. I think, oh God, this is going to sound so weird. I think I read in my accent, which is horrific. But like, do you know what I mean? Like,
no, I'm the same way. I hear my own voice in my head, so I can't ever picture the voices. And there are times when I deliberately do it. Like if I'm reading Harry Potter, I have seen the movies so many times, and I've heard the audiobooks, so I usually am imagining the voices of the actors or the narrator. Otherwise, it's really just my own. Own head.
That's such an interesting question. I've never thought of that before. Now when I'm reading, I'm going to consciously think like what I'm thinking, but I'm sure I just hear my own voice. And then I just somehow relate them to like characters that are in my memory.
It's really weird to think about it.
Yeah, it is.
Do I even hear a voice in my head when I'm reading? Like, how does this work? This is getting really weird.
So Nerissa's put American, so she hears American, and I think Emma put American. How about you, Dustin? Tell us what you do. That's so interesting. I've never thought about that before ever. Now I'm gonna like consciously think about it, and then I'll have to update you, Dustin.
Let me know.
Let you know. So Scott's put, Art reminds me of a Bond villain.
Yes.
Paul of Killer Fish, and he unties the main characters before trying to kill them. Well, yeah, why did you do that?
To give them a fighting chance, because that makes sense, right?
But the fishes were hungry because they've never been fed.
I love how he's taunting them. I was laughing. I was like, this is great. And even God, what's his name again? I keep forgetting his name. James. James. I don't like to remember that. Even he was like, oh my God, is he gonna just kill us already or what?
Yeah. Oh dear, but what a big mistake that was, untying them. Yeah. Because obviously it gave Christina scope to, well, if she was tied up right, she still could have ducked down, I'm guessing. But yeah, she kind of ducked down, and then he obviously fell in. So it turns out he was the son of the old man who got killed by Christina and Terry at the start of the book. But he had such a brutal death. Like, I think there was literally 2 pages of description just of his death. And I was like, yes,
I know.
blood.
It made me so happy because as a kid, when I was reading these books, I always wanted them to be just a little more gruesome
Yeah.
because they tease it, there would be a little bit, but I'm like, I want more though. And this, I didn't read this as a kid. I wish I did. But
Yeah.
this would have satisfied me completely because it
Yeah.
was.
Well, I read this one as a teen, and as I say, it stayed in my memory
Mm-hmm.
the whole time. And I actually think now that maybe because I'm quite known for saying I want more blood in
Yes.
things, in films, in stuff.
Yes.
Emma or no, I'm always going, oh, I didn't have enough,
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street didn't have enough blood for me and stuff. But I think it's because that's what I craved when I was younger. Like I just wanted a book that had blood in it.
And
um,
it's so funny because I'm the same way. The more blood, the more gore, the better. When in real life, if I see just a teeny tiny little drop of blood, I will pass out for real.
yeah, yeah, I have to
I can't
admit, I
handle the real
probably
gore.
would as well. Oh God, yeah, I probably definitely would as well. So Dustin put, he hears the accent of the country it's based on. So for point horror, I hear American male, female voices. So interesting.
Mm.
No, and Karen's put she likes my mug, so I've got a little. It will be backwards on here, but it says "creeping it real."
Mine says trick or treat because every day is
Oh,
Halloween. I also have a little pumpkin jack-o'-lantern plate with cookies.
oh! I think Dustin said you was eating cookies earlier.
I do have a couple of cookies, but I'm so worried like you guys are going to hear just crunching. So I'm like, I'll save them for my after live snack.
Oh, so Dustin's put, that's how you know you're more horror driven. Yeah, because of the blood. So
Hmm.
Dustin's put, he's more adventure, excitement, not blood and gore. Yeah, that's probably why. But I think I do. I don't know why I went down that route. I can't explain what triggered it, but
I don't
um,
know. It just happens when you're a horror fan.
yeah, just
I used to be more into the psychological part, which is why Halloween was always my favorite slasher and still is, because it doesn't have a whole lot of blood and gore. It's mostly on the cinematography and the suspense and stuff.
mm,
But then over time, I think it was seeing Evil Dead. I was
oh
like, oh, I like this. And then
yeah.
now it's like, yeah, I've never looked back.
Do you know that actually? So the first horror film I ever saw. Some people know this story already because I tell it all the time. But the first horror film I ever saw when I was probably too young, about 7, was The Evil Dead. So that probably explains it, doesn't it?
Yeah, there it
Yeah,
is. That was you
yeah.
pinpointed it right there. Was it Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2?
No, Evil Dead,
That was me.
definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that explains a lot. um, so Art was one unlucky dude, and as I say, his death scene took like 2 pages, and it was brutal. It like yeah, you see all these limbs being like torn apart, everything.
It's
But
so good.
obviously,
It's
won't
so
go into it. And he also stole. So I can't remember what year was this, but he was saying "Show me the money" a lot, and I was thinking of Jerry Maguire. And I meant to look up to see if this came out before that film because I'd be like, oh, should have trademarked it. Someone's going to come and sue. But yeah, so hashtag lawsuit on the "Show me the money." Who's,
Yeah.
you know. And I think someone said earlier that Christina thought she could just pay him off with $1,000, and then he'd just like go on his merry way. But
It's not a lot of
no,
money.
not a lot of money. But what intrigued me about Art was that do we believe? Obviously, it did happen, but maybe it was just written just to get Steiny out of a plot hole. But he actually was driving the other way when he saw Terry and Christina dumping his dad's body on the side of the road. I mean, what are the
Yeah,
chances? What are the chances?
How would he have come across that in the first place? And also, why would you keep driving? I would feel like I'd be like, excuse me, is that my dad? Like,
Yeah.
um, can you come with me to my piranha pit now?
No, in my look, I'd be driving along and I'd think, oh, that looks like my dad. Then just carry on. And then realise far too late that it probably was. And then obviously, this is the 90s. There's no tracking devices, no mobile phones. So he then managed to track Christina and Terry down at every possible opportunity where they were. Like, he just found them. Like, what are the chances
Right.
of that? I mean, they did stop a lot, as I said, but
Yeah, it could be that he had just been stalking them, and no matter where they stopped, he could have been like in his car, like
yeah,
a few feet away, watching.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, it does feel at first a little far-fetched because it's not really elaborated on. So
yeah. Oh.
he's just kind of there.
And the thing is, he didn't get a very gracious death either, because at
Mhm.
least like he could have like just fell into the pool, or just slipped and he tripped over Christina, but no, he belly flopped into that piranha lake. Can you imagine?
It's
It's
so
like,
horrible. It's so horrible. I don't know why I'm laughing, but
oh, I know. Oh, terrible. Just reading some of the comments. So Justin's put, it's probably my exposure so young. I've seen a dead body in real life. A man with his brains blown out. Oh, I'm so sorry, Justin. That would really,
Jesus.
oh, that would affect me. Like, oh, Justin, I just want to give you a big hug now. That's horrible.
Jesus.
Oh, bless you. Oh, that would like scar anyone for life.
Oh,
Seeing something like that.
I mentioned seeing a drop of blood. I've literally passed out just because of a tiny drop of blood.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I can't imagine. I probably had a tonic after something like that.
oh,
For
yeah.
real.
Oh, Justin's put he's okay. Okay, Justin. Okay.
Man.
So yeah. So, just to sum up, then, we was a fan of the Hitchhiker. Then you liked it overall.
Yes, I loved it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will read this again.
I knew you would love it. I'm so glad that it won in the Pollock, because I was like, oh, I know Cameron's gonna really love this one. And
Yeah, and I've not read The Phantom either, which was the other book, and I would like to read that. So either
yeah.
one I was excited for, but I was really glad this one, especially after I finished reading it, because it was good. I liked it.
Oh, Dustin's, but it didn't scar me. It didn't phase him at all. Oh, you're a good egg, Dustin. That's why we love you. Um, so yeah, so I really like this. I'd say it was more violent than the average point horror.
Hmm.
Slightly darker and kind of like an adult tone. And more grisly and gore, as we said.
It does feel a lot more adult than
Yeah,
others.
because there was like guns in it as well, and like more
Yeah.
violence.
Hmm.
And of course the piranha lake, which we can't stop talking about, was just
Right.
brilliant.
And there was no high school involved, which high school is usually my favorite book. My favorite part of his books is just, getting to see like the clicks and all that stuff. But that's not even mentioned in here. There's no high school involved. I kind of would forget that these were teenagers after a while. I felt like maybe they were college age. So it does feel a lot
Yeah,
more adult for that reason.
yeah, no, I definitely agree with that.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I have to say, like, I was slightly worried about myself because I did love the end and I love the piranhas. Um, that's just like, if the book hasn't got piranhas anymore, then that's it. But it's quite, for a book from 1993. It is quite risky in a way, but I think Stein, as we've said, did this quite a lot, and he pulled it off every time to have the characters so unlikable.
Hmm.
And even like most of the characters in this book are just not likable at all. There's always like the odd one, but I'd
Hmm.
say there's qualities in all these characters that were completely unlikable. And I think that's quite risky to have your whole book like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I love reading about unlikable characters, and I love writing them, but it is risky because
Mm.
I want my readers to like the book, and if they don't like the character and they don't like unlikable characters, then they're not going to like it. So it is
Yeah.
risky because most people want to connect to the character and relate to the character. And if you're following a bunch of people that you're not even supposed to like, yeah, it could definitely affect how people think about it. But I like it, and I can picture R.L. Stine writing these books and being like, hey, this is
Yeah.
funny. You can tell he thinks it's funny. He thinks the main characters are funny.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, I mean, it happens a lot more nowadays in books with the unreliable narrator.
Hmm.
Um, but I think what Stein does so well is the way he puts the narrative in, and it's like flitting between them. There's no set chapter, which is just from one point of view. And that's how you pull off a good, unreliable narrator.
Hmm.
And you pull it off really well by
He
doing it like that.
was ahead of his time with the unreliable
Yeah,
narrator thing.
yeah,
I,
definitely,
I think he
100%.
was one of the first, like some of the earliest ones I've ever read are in his books, and he does it a lot.
Yeah, he does. And I read a book last year, Survive the Night, by Riley Sager.
Hmm.
But I didn't appreciate that set in the 90s,
Hmm.
and I didn't appreciate. I liked the book, I did enjoy it, but I don't think I quite appreciated how 90s it was until I've reread this book, because
Hmm.
obviously it's set in a car and it's across a journey.
Hmm.
But now, as I was reading this and I was thinking of that book, and it's made me appreciate that book a bit more and the work that he put into that book. And I
Hmm.
do recommend that. Check that out. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
I'm trying to look at my shelf. I've got Final Girls by Riley Sager and The Last Time I Lied. So I've not read those yet, but I want to
Yeah,
start with those, especially Final Girls, because I love slashers and Final Girls in
I've read that.
particular.
I think you'll like that.
I really want to read it. I've been wanting to for like, I picked it up like 2 years ago. Still not read it.
Oh gosh, don't
But
all the books on my shelf are
oh
going, yeah, you've had me
God.
for years.
Uh, I've had books since I was a kid that I've not read yet, and I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, so bad.
Uh,
But I think you would like that. And I think if you liked Hitchhiker, I
mhm.
definitely think you'd like Survive the Night.
Especially if it
Um,
takes place in the 90s, because I'm also
yeah,
Autumn Crow High takes place in 93, so I'm trying to really base my reading around the 90s right now, whether it's actually written in the 90s or referencing the 90s, because I want to get the tone right, and I also don't want it to be too much.
mm, yeah, no,
Mhm.
definitely. I'm so excited to read that. Um, so, just input first time read. Took him about 90 minutes to read. One of the better Steins I've read in a while.
Mhm.
Um, constant reader, beware. I read the Dutch edition of The Hitchhiker. Definitely have to read the original soon because the translations are not the same as the original stories.
That's
Oh,
interesting. That really fascinates me. Like, I want someone to make a website comparing the translated ones to the American and seeing how they're different.
yeah. So I wonder what was different. I'd love to know what was different in it. That would be, yeah, that would be interesting.
Yes.
Um, people often expect likable, but Emma, people often expect likable, but I like the gits. R L Stein laugh. Um,
Yeah.
books Bethany reads, like Christina, didn't like her, so I love seeing loads of bad things happen to her. I think that's it. Like with unlikable characters, I do like bad things to happen to them as well.
And that's another
Um,
point I want to make is that R.L. Stine was a really big fan of the old Tales from the Crypt comic books. And in Tales from the
mm,
Crypt, you always had these really terrible people getting their comeuppance. That's what the whole stories were based off of. At the end of the book or the story, there would be this person getting a terrible grisly end. So I think that has influenced R.L. Stein's style a lot because he
yeah,
does, and especially in his teen books, writes about these kind of mm, not nice characters. They go through a lot of stuff.
Oh, but that's why we like them, isn't it?
Hmm.
That's why we like them. Narissa's put, for me, a character just needs to be intriguing, not necessarily likable.
Hmm. I agree.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of people saying, so Lisa from B for Books put she really liked Final Girls, the book we were just talking about. And someone's put Last Time I Lied is my fave Riley novel. That's the
Oh,
one I haven't read, so I
oh.
need to read that one.
Well, those are the two that I own, so I will. I'll start there, or I'll just buy them
um,
all
yeah,
and finally read one 5 years from
yeah, maybe 10.
now. Yeah, or a whole lifetime. Who knows?
Lisa from B for Books put, I see what you mean about Survive the Night now that you've mentioned it. It was just, I just appreciated it so much more after reading this.
Hmm.
So Constant Reader Beware, the translations to Fear Street and Goosebumps are completely different from the original stories.
Wow,
That's fascinating.
wow.
We need to know more about that.
I
I
really
find that
do.
so interesting. And Marissa's put, yeah, some things don't have actual translation to foreign phrases.
Hmm.
It's just amazing. You definitely need to know more about that. But Cameron, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us. It's been
Thank
so
you
much
so much.
fun.
This was a blast, and I really want to do it again sometime.
Yes,
I really enjoyed
please come back.
it. Yes.
And I'm so glad that we finally got to do it. As I say, we've been talking about it for a while,
Yeah,
and
for
then we managed
months.
to, yeah, to get something scheduled in. And I'm so glad you really love The Hitchhiker. But I did think that you would like this one.
You know my taste, I guess.
But yeah, do check out Cameron's book, Autumn Crow, and look out for Autumn Crow High as well. I can't wait, Cameron, can't wait. And
Okay.
thank you all for joining in and for your fab comments. And we're all slightly scared of Karen with her
Yes.
Piranha Lake now. So yeah.
And gators.
Oh, thanks guys. Thanks, Cameron.
Thank you.
See you next month.
See ya.
Bye.